We got cool jobs. We do cool things. Our work should be magical. Welcome to STEMdenity. I'm your host, Anna Hodshire. We work really hard and our jobs shouldn't suck. Let's dive in. I've had the opportunity to be at a few conferences recently, and I've got some coming up. And it had me thinking, something finally clicked in that there is an actually, to me, confusing amount of stigma, both personally and by others, of going up to give a talk at your talk session, maybe in front of the entire conference, and bringing up notes. And some people can pull it off, no problem. Other people just absolutely cannot pull off bringing up notes. And so I want to dig in this episode. How does it work? How does it not work? Because there's literally nothing wrong with bringing along notes when you're giving a talk, right? Think about all of the other situations out there where people have notes. Actors have a script. If you're a voice actor, I assume your script is right in front of you and you're just having a great time, mostly reading word for word whatever's on the written page in front of you. Authors, poets, fiction writers, right? They're frequently reading excerpts from their own work, essentially word for word. Audiobooks, they're literally people reading exactly word for word something already written down. Right now, I am reading to you from my page of notes. And those last few sentences, for some reason, I decided to script out pretty heavily instead of a couple bullet points. So I too was reading to you almost word for word what I'd written down. There's nothing wrong with going up to give a talk and have some notes with you, but the problems come in with how people tend to do it. So this episode I'm excited about. I've given episodes before on talks. I will link them in the show notes. Part 1, talks are a performance, how to get better at talks. Part 2, how to get past the nerves. Hopefully these talks, or these episodes rather, were helpful for you if you've listened to them. If not, feel free to listen to them when you're ready. I think that we tend to forget that giving a good speech, whether it's at a conference or maybe it's in front of a large fraction of your company or for a large group of clients or whatever it is, whatever your job looks like in STEM, it's a part of our identity, but it's not a part of our identity many of us get to frequently practice. So it feels very uncomfortable when all of a sudden we're like, oh, shoot, it's talk time. I got to go. Because how do we spend most of our days? Most STEM jobs do not spend the majority of your time talking to other people. Some of them do, but most of them do not, right? Many of us have jobs that maybe you spend many hours a day coding or writing or reviewing, reading, all of these quiet, introverted activities. Maybe you have a small team you work with that you're quickly interacting with throughout the day, especially nowadays when many jobs have the option to be remote or partially remote. You might find yourself working in an isolated situation and you spend a lot more of your time chatting with someone, or the majority of your meetings are video calls. So you're calling in and people can't really tell what you're doing. Maybe you have pajama bottoms on them, all of these things. And all of a sudden you're thrown into the public eye, as it were, at a conference, at a session, at a big client meeting. And yep, there it is, the freaky, freaky talk. So let's talk about giving a talk with notes, because again, it's actually a very normal thing to have notes, but it seems weirdly stigmatized in STEM. And I think it's partly because we have not done a great job of just taking ownership of the fact that, hey, you know what, I got some notes today. And as a reminder, of course, everything is a spectrum, and there's a spectrum of coming up for your talk with notes. So I've seen the spectrum between having 0 slides and a small sheet of paper that probably just has, maybe 6 to 10 bullet points or lines that just orient the speaker, remind them, hey, I need to hit this talking point, and then I need to hit this talking point, and so forth, right? I love that. That's basically what I do for prepping for these episodes. I do have some sentences in there that kind of help me stay on track for things I want to say. But this is also partly me just brainstorming and then not deleting, right? If I was really editing my notes for the podcast, I'd probably make them into more bullet points than sentences. And then there's the other end of the spectrum where the person has a slide deck and you can tell that they have written out, typed out their entire speech word for word, and they're attempting to read the entire speech word for word. So keeping that in mind, I'm going to focus more on people who tend towards the I have slides and my speech is written out spectrum when I'm talking about what seems to work and what doesn't seem to work. But you can take this to the other end of the spectrum, the no slides and just a few talking points as well. So the first thing that people either flounder on or breeze through is setting the stage for success. Literally, when you walk up to whatever it is, the podium usually that you're speaking at, do not apologize for your notes. It's completely fine that you have notes. It's not a big deal. When you apologize for your notes, you've primed your audience to judge you. I watched multiple people at the conference I was at most recently walk up to the stage and apologize. And so I've already been primed to be like, oh, I see you have some notes there, right? Like my little judgy, nonsense voice in my head is already starting to judge you. So don't apologize. It's okay. What I have seen work is just lightly referencing to your notes. I have my notes here, so don't stray too far off topic. I say that all the time. Every single time I have an interview, I have two screens up. I'm about to interview the person. We're going through the pre stuff. And I just mentioned, hey, by the way, I've got my notes on this other screen if you wonder why I'm looking over here. So I don't stray too far off topic. They laugh. They feel slightly reassured. Hey, Anna's not going to go, spiraling off into space and talk about whatever crazy thing comes to her mind. She's got a bit of a script. This is great. Another thing that can or can't work is if you have multiple pages. So multiple pages is already signaling to your audience, hey guys, I've basically written out my entire speech and I'm going to read from this document. That's not a bad thing necessarily, but you want to kind of not prime them too much for that. So try to have a fresh copy that isn't all crinkly. This is maybe a small point, but I don't think it's just me. When someone sort of organizes their notes before they get speaking and you hear a bunch of crinkling, you're just like, oh my gosh, there's like 18 pages of notes, aren't there? You're just going to read off the script. I'm already bored, right? Again, you're either priming your audience to sort of start tuning out, not be that excited because they think that you're not going to give an engaging talk, or you're just quietly organizing your notes. You might even consider, gosh, I can't remember what they're called, but there's those sort of plasticky clear sleeves, right? Maybe you remember this from your elementary school days, that we would put our papers in these plastic sleeves. You could look into that because that makes things really quiet and you can just be quietly flipping through your notes as you go. So my suggestion, setting the stage for success, is to walk up, quietly put your notes down and dive right in, or maybe do a little banter, maybe make a small unapologetic comment about your notes, maybe a little joke. Hey, want to make sure I don't get too far off topic here, something like that. And that's actually a side tip that I'll throw in here, which is, I've heard this before and it does work for me. And I try to do it when I can, which is somehow warming up speaking beforehand, before you actually give your speech, is really helpful, because it's actually kind of odd to dive in from dead silence to, I'm Dr. Anna Hotshire and I'm here to talk to you about X. And here we go. First slide, bunch of details, right? That's a little uncomfortable. And in fact, today I haven't recorded an episode, a solo episode, in a little while. And I had to restart a couple times because I was just like, oh, I just couldn't even remember how to talk. I'd just been quietly sitting on my couch prepping my notes for these episodes and forgot how to talk. So I had to warm up a couple times and now I'm all right. If you can't warm up, say you're on a panel, you're on the stage, or you're in the audience, you don't feel comfortable going out to the hall right before your talk, whatever it is, maybe just having that couple of seconds of light banter is really helpful. For whatever reason, when I had submitted the abstract for a talk recently, I was in a very fun, light, poetic mood. My talk title was something very ridiculous and sort of referencing Shakespeare. I thought it was fun. I got a mixed reaction from the people I was traveling with. Some of them thought that it was fun. Some of them were like, what were you thinking there, Anna? And I was like, well, I was having fun and that's fine. But I was like, you know what? Rather than leave this alone, I'm going to spend my few seconds of banter, my few seconds of just warming my brain, my mouth, my vocal cords up to being primed to speak to all these people, to lightly comment on my silly title, because it is silly and it's fun. So now you're primed. You haven't made people start to already judge you because you had notes, right? I watched one speaker recently walk up to the podium with silent notes, put her notes down, and start speaking. And I thought literally nothing of her notes. Didn't think, oh, this is going to be a boring talk. Didn't think anything. And why are you priming people? Because the kiss of death for having your notes is reading straight from your script in a very, let's face it, boring fashion, right? You can tell when people are trying to be dynamic and interesting versus they're just reading something to get through it. You hear this a lot when it comes to kind of those little stock statements that people have to make. Even good speakers, sometimes if they have a stock statement that they need to make, like, recording is here, or here's my housekeeping notes, or whatever it is, you can tell that they are not engaged with what they're doing. And I zone out for a couple of seconds while they say whatever they're saying and wait for them to come back to something a little more dynamic. So instead, just like my first episode on giving talks is a performance, talking with notes is a performance. One person I watched give a talk with notes last week, I could tell that they most likely had their speech almost, if not completely, written out on their quiet notes. She might have even had her things in those little laminated sleeves, and I don't quite remember. But man, she was so dynamic. And I know that she's the parent of a couple of children, so I don't know if she was just honing into story time. She really killed it at story time or what, but she told it like a story. It was exciting. I was completely engaged within a few seconds, even though she even apologized for her notes ahead of time. And I was like, oof, you are priming me to not be excited about your talk. But then she saved it with the dynamic speech. So that's the number one tip, right? Talking with notes, just like every other talk, it's a performance. You are perfectly welcome to read off of your script if you can be excited and zazzy and fresh and pull people in. And I'll be honest that it's still fairly easy to get kind of pulled into droning along with reading the words on your page. And the same thing goes for having phrases, lots of words on your PowerPoint slide. I do this too when I give a talk that I'm not as comfortable with the material on, haven't really thought about the slides as much. It's pretty easy for me to default looking at the slide and just reading the text on the slide. And I know when I do that, and I try very hard to say it at least in an interesting fashion, slightly reword things, so it's not just word for word off the slide. But when you have your notes, if you feel like, I kind of struggle with reading excitedly off of, my very scripted out speech, maybe start working towards shorter phrases that keep you on track. So rather than having it sentence by sentence, it's just shorter phrases. So you are filling in the filler words, and that makes it a little bit more interesting. And that's essentially what your notes on your PowerPoint slides are, right? When you actually have the bullet points on a PowerPoint slide, you're reminding yourself of what you wanted to say. This is the same idea, it's just in front of you. And maybe that's a little more comfortable. I know that sometimes it's hard to read the PowerPoint slide from a distance, depending on how the room is set up. So it is a little more comfortable having your notes in front of you. And that's it. This is literally episode. Doesn't need to be complicated. I really want to normalize. It's not a big deal to have your notes. Don't apologize for them. Perfectly fine. If it helps you, be like, hey, mentally, I'm a voice actor. I am giving a performance of my amazing science, and I'm ensuring that I do it well by having notes in front of me. Or think about, if you listen to audiobooks or actors, whatever gets you excited to be proud that you are trying to give the best speech that you can give, and you know that you're going to give it because you have notes, rather than being kind of ashamed because you have notes. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's okay. So what can I give to you for the learn and move your feet? In other words, we talked about a number of things. What's something you can implement? If you don't have a talk coming up, whether it's at work or a conference or whatever have you, maybe try just reading something out loud that's written this week every single day for like 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute, 5 minutes, however long, dynamically. Just get into that mindset of, even though you're reading something off of the screen, you can still say it in a very excited way. You don't have to, right? Here's the difference. Read something out loud this week, each day, dynamically, versus, hey, go out there and read something out loud each day this week dynamically. I wrote that sentence. The grammar is quite poor. I would have reworded it, but I was trying to word it, say it word for word. And there's a hopefully noticeable difference. Hopefully you're a little more engaged with version 2. Maybe you loved version 1. That's okay. And then since that's maybe, I don't know, maybe you're like, okay, I guess I could do that, but that's weird because I work in an office and people are around me, or I'm at home and my partner or kids are around me, maybe that's not the best tip for you. So another alternative tip is, if you have a presentation coming up, especially a low stakes presentation, maybe it's a presentation to the group that you work in or a very small client meeting or something, try overnoting it. Try basically writing out some notes or using the notes feature on your PowerPoint slide if you know you're going to be able to see your screen, and really writing stuff out and see how you like it. Maybe you actually prefer giving a talk with more notes. Maybe it's time that we just normalize, hey, bring up notes if it makes you a better speaker. I'd much rather listen to a dynamic speech that is word for word read off of a page than someone who is nervous and flustered and just really, really, really uncomfortable because they think they're going to forget what they're going to say next. And I know that's a huge fear of people. They think they're going to forget what they're going to say next. So try more notes than you usually give yourself. Drop the stigma. It's not a big deal. You are a voice actor giving a great presentation. Try overnoting it, see how you like it. Feel free to reach out and let me know how this works. I think maybe the main point of all of this, of every single episode I have done and will do and giving talks, is that there's literally no single way to do a talk. There's no right way. There's some ways that you can set people up to be kind of disengaged and bored. The worst talk I saw recently with notes was someone who just read every single word off of their sheet. It wasn't dynamic. They were apologetic at the beginning. They were shuffling their notes around. And it was just, I couldn't engage. And it wasn't anything personal to the work they were presenting. It wasn't anything personal to the person themselves. My brain just literally was like, my time zone is off. This is in the morning. It's 2 hours ahead of where I should be. I didn't have enough breakfast and this is not working for me. I can't pay attention. So I literally didn't pay attention for 10 minutes. Do I feel bad? Yes. But was that what happened? Also, yes. So there's ways to not give the best talk, but there's no right way, single right way to give a fantastic talk. On the other end of that spectrum, one of the best speakers I have seen is a guy that loves to go up there without slides. It's great when he doesn't have slides because he works for a company that seems to not understand the whole make your slides readable. They're like, you need to have as much content per slide as possible. So the slides are useless. They're just, you can't read anything and they're confusing. But he'll walk up there with a little sheet of paper with probably about 6 bullet points to keep him more or less on track. And he just talks. He's really knowledgeable and he talks and it's engaging and it's interesting. And I'm like, oh, I'm learning so much. Doesn't matter what time zone it is. Doesn't matter if I'm completely off my sleep schedule. I will listen to you. So in that theme, song of the week for literally no single right way to give a talk. For those of us who grew up around the same age I am, I'm 35 for reference. In America, you probably heard on the radio a song you haven't thought about for a long time, and you might not be that excited to think about, but it's kind of a fun song to listen to like once in a while, is It's My Life by No Doubt. That's right, Gwen Stefani, rocking it out. It's your life. Give a talk how you want to. If you feel better going up there with notes, go up there with notes. Just make it fun. Make it yours. Make it interesting. Give it a try. Feel free to reach out and let me know how it went. Feel free to reach out and let me know if there are other episode ideas you would love to hear. I really appreciate you listening. As always, this podcast is not affiliated with my research and teaching roles at Colorado State University, but it's a part of my belief that we can all have jobs we love and we all have these different identity parts, and our speaking part is just one of them. And why not give it a little more attention so that when we do need to give a speech, we actually look forward to it and we have fun instead of dreading it for days, weeks, however long, and then overanalyzing how it went afterwards and just setting yourself up for really dreading the next time you give a talk. You can hang out with me on Instagram, STEMdenity, or LinkedIn, Anna Hodshire, Music by XSS, also on LinkedIn. And as always, this is, an algorithm-driven world. If this episode was helpful, I'd love it if you would share it with a friend, subscribe on your podcast app, leave a review, all that good stuff. Can't wait to talk to you next week.